Oh, that's... It just grabbed my arms. It was this squeeze at my arms, like right here. I love when they're like touching and like you can feel stuff. And it's just this. Because sometimes you get a target where you're just looking at things and you're describing what it looks like and here's the data. This one grabbed me. This is gonna be fun. Oh my god, my I'm not kidding, this is so funny. I love this. It's grabbed my arms again. Like right here and right here, it just squeezed. Like it just, imagine something grabbing here and squeezing me like this. But softly, nothing violent or it was it just makes me laugh. It's funny. It's oh my god, it does it again. I don't know what it is, but it's grabbing me. Okay. Oh, 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 oh. There's a bright, burning orange light. It's rather big. I'm gonna add a bit of, like, this, what I saw, like, it smells bad. It has a smell. It smells. It grabbed my throat. It grabbed my throat. Something came in at my throat and grabbed it. This time it had like a metallic feel, almost like a metallic was like slowly and then grabbed. Again, it's nothing aggressive. I don't get scared. I don't get injured. It's just this grabby target. It's fun. It's fun for me. Something burns inside my chest. Inside my rib cage in the middle, it started burning, a kind of a flame. Something started burning inside my chest. A confusion is had about this item. Tall, dark brown, black things. We have this thing that registers as a tree, but it doesn't mean that it is a tree. It's a dark brown, almost black, tall pillar thing, and it is just dark around it. A life form. And perhaps surprisingly, I find a life form. Something is fun here. It's fun. The orange burning bright thing again. A gas chamber. I'm not gonna draw the gas chamber because I just sensed it as an information more so. I didn't see a gas chamber. A road, a path being traveled. This is a road or a path that is being traveled. Something hits me on the arm, always on the arm. This time it was strong and it hit me, but it didn't hurt me. Ari said an ember of a falling star. But this was just what RV said. I didn't see an element associated with it. A great confusion. Alright, I could keep looking for more elements, but let's just have the ones we have. They should be the main elements anyway. And if we missed any elements, they will come later. Oh my god! Oh my god, you will never believe this. This has almost never happened in all my remote viewing of 6 years. So, this orange thing, this element, I subjected it to its first probe, touch probe, so I tapped it a little. It grabbed my arm here and it started pulling me into itself. I swear. And what's interesting is it's not a life form even. Like, this is so funny. This is fun. I don't know why it's fun. All these punching and grabbing, but something about it just makes me laugh. You'd think that it's scary or hurtful. It's just fun. So inside of this orange, we find a strange puddle of confusing mess. It's like a liquid puddle, but it's a strange puddle of confusing mess. Again, the confusion. It's inside there. I can go in towards the puddle on the road. Ow, it hurts my back when I go on the road. Ouch. Ow, ow, ow. I swear, my whole spine and lower back is grabbed and hard and twisted and crumbles. My whole spine, at the lower spine, just gets crushed from this hard grab and twist. Crumbles. It turns my spine bone into just crumbles and twists so hard my back. It just hurt a lot. Ow. Ow, it won't stop hurting. Ow, that's a bad injury. That's severe. Ow. I passed out. Like another part of me just passed out from the pain, lost consciousness and fell over because of the pain in the back. I can't breathe. I just died over there. This has never happened. I've been in, ow! I can't breathe. It just killed me. I've been injured, ow. I've been injured on target sites many times before. I've had lots of weird stuff happening. This is probably the worst, because this just killed me. I died there. I died. I've never had this happen before. I just died there. I had to die because I went there. It's kind of sad, you know, to have to die is sad for me, because I've never had that happen before. I never died before on a target. Really sad. Like, is there another part of me there which is just dead? Did I send myself into a target that I sent myself to die? I'm kind of feeling really bad about that. I'm just hoping it's ow, ow, ow. It grabs my neck on the sides and crumbles and crushes. This time, from both sides of my neck, got grabbed by a metallic, dark, hard thing and just pushes, squeezes, crushes here, just squeezes. I'll just write that on the impressions. From it's just really bad what happened on my lower back. It's been busted. It's not okay. Let's keep going. I just died there. I died there. Not someone at the target. Me, I died there. Well, it's an interesting target for sure, and all these strong sensations is a good sign that we're on a target. Metallic, like a crushed can. The orange. So the orange has the orange thing has like a metallic can. And it's like a brown metallic. It's not your black or silver colored. It's crushed can. It's this brass. It's this color like brass, orange, brown colored, weird metallic. It's not like a silver, steel, or clean colored metal. It's like dirty brass colored can, metal can. I don't like it. I don't like this dirty colored metal can, which is inside of the orange. It's very quiet here. I don't hear anything. Ow, it grabbed my arms and started pulling me into this can. And it's so weird. There's no life form doing it. It's the can, it's the orange doing it. There's a pulmonary disease here. Ow, my legs got hurt. Ow, ow, my back's still burned, injured. This has destroyed my back. It hurts, it hurts. You don't have to come here, someone told me. There's a lot of shrapnel here in the orange. It's like metal, almost like metal papers. Let's just draw it in. There are these flexible, bendy metal papers. They're thin, they're metal, and you can bend them. We don't have anything like that because I guess we have aluminum, but you can't shrivel it up like aluminum. It's like a paper out of metal, and you can bend it. It's soft. And it's not a steel silver color, it's again this dirty brass brown colored. The brown orange colored. It's an interesting color for a metal. Like so. Very interesting indeed. Very, very interesting. Let's get going. You cannot come here, says the man to me. I'm gonna go there anyway. But I'm not telling him that. He could get angry. Oh, my throat got grabbed again. Ow, my back hurts. Ow. Okay. Ow, my feet were injured in some way that I don't even understand. There is some confusing mess here. In the orange. There are metal doors. There's a it's time to, no, let's keep adding here. There are these, there's like there's a door on it. There's a door on this metal can. Don't you just love the colors, the brown and orange? And it's just the strangest type of metal I've ever seen. It's just so ugly. It's an ugly metal can. It wants to fall over. The metal can has nothing robotic inside. It has confusion inside. It smells bad, like chemical liquid. Ow, it grabbed my arms again. It wants to grab me. I want to keep going on the tap probe on this orange with the tin can, but we do have other elements to attend to, so we will go to the other elements. We'll come back to this one later. Someone grabbed my throat and starts pulling on it. It was that dark metal thing again. Let's turn our attention to this thing that registers, meaning reminds of a tree. It's basically just this tall, dark brown, almost black, pillar-shaped element. Oh, it smells bad. Ugh, like burnt rubber. It has been scraped along the ground. So this brown tree-like thing, it smells bad like burnt rubber, and it has been scraped across the ground, kind of like smeared, like it's a bit soft. It was dragged across the ground. It cannot be eaten. It doesn't want to hurt us. It has a life of its own. It's like there's something active inside this. Inside of the stem there's an activity which is similar to biological activity, but it hasn't registered as a life form. But it has a life of its own inside it. It is friendly, gentle, and kind. It has no eyes to see with. It cannot grab me. This is not the thing that grabs me. This isn't the grabbing one. We can go inside it. Into the center there is a hollow stem which has the life of its own inside it. It doesn't smell bad all the time. It doesn't have a good focus. It is gentle, very gentle and kind, and old and ancient. It doesn't have any papers that we can read. It has a clock ticking inside. A timekeeper. It keeps track of mechanisms. It wants to go nowhere. It is not very resilient, meaning it has a weakness, it's vulnerable in a way. It could break, it could fall apart, it could disintegrate. It's not resilient, it's not robust or tough. Very gentle. It almost feels like people are sleeping inside it, like a sleeping chamber. The feeling I had. It has no eyes to look at with. We can really go inside. There's inside this there's this thin hollow chamber which has the life of its own inside and feels gentle like a sleeping chamber. We can go in here, and we will later, to find out what is in here. It's a thin, narrow, hollow space inside. It doesn't want to be hurt. It wants to be left alone in peace. It's strange how this element has so much. It's as if it is thinking. It wants things, it feels things, it has a life inside it. It's as if it's probing this thing. It's like probing a person or an animal or a life form, because it has these intentions and emotions almost, and thoughts almost. It's very bizarre. I don't know if I ever encountered such a thing before. It has a staircase inside. Like, at least looked like stairs. this type of structure, it doesn't mean that beings would use it to go up on them, but this kind of a structure, which one would want to call stairs, we can call it stairs, but we remember that it's just a description of the shape. This is inside. It's dark. So we already know it's not a tree, obviously, presumably. It doesn't hurt anybody. Let's keep going on this one, actually. When I flick it, I pick up a metallic resonance chime, starts vibrating from the inside. Now this is embedded internally because it's this metal inside has a soft, thick padding on the outside. So the metal is inside. So I flicked it and it created this vibration because of my flick energy on it. And this was a metallic resonance. It's a metal inside. It started creating this energy resonance sound, almost a feeling from the inside. This thing doesn't want to hurt anybody. It doesn't grab my arms. So something at this target site has been grabbing my arms, but it is not this brown thing. I'm really enjoying this target. I'm having a lot of fun. This is what I live for. I'm really having fun right now. This is great. It has capsized over. Some remnants are left of it. So we already saw that this thing is not resilient, meaning it could disintegrate and fall apart. And now we had that there are some remnants left of it, which indicated that it would have indeed disintegrated. And there are just some pieces left of it. We also had earlier, remember, that this thing has been scraped across the ground, kind of like dragged. It had this feeling of like a car accident, you know, with the soft rubber that leaves a black mark across the ground. So this thing has been gone through some kind of a breakage or decomposition process of some kind. Something grabs my throat again. The metallic comes and wraps around my throat. It doesn't feel angry, aggressive, or hurtful. It doesn't cause me pain. But there's this metal sheet that just wraps here and stays there for some reason, which I find very interesting. It doesn't bother me. It's kind of curious. Metallic chime inside. It's trapped inside. So indeed we have, it seems at this stage, to be some kind of a softer outer casing, which is thick, like a soft padding. And internally we have a metal, which we now saw is trapped inside. My feet disappeared. My feet got chopped off somehow. So I don't have my feet anymore. They just disappeared. Life forms inside. But get this. These life forms appear so tiny in here that I would either suspect, we don't know yet what kind of life forms. I just saw the little red dots because they were so tiny, like dots. It's blurry at this stage. Later we will have a full clarity and see exactly what they look like and what they are. But at this stage they were so small inside of this structure that I would almost want to say that it's just cells, like biological cells, little specks of life, rather than biological organisms, because they were so tiny in here. Or if they are full-bodied, it would then imply that the structure is massive in size. We'll find out. I'm just getting ahead of myself here. Let's just draw what we had. We have a lot of these. They're smaller than that. I'm sorry. They're tiny. We have inside of the interior chamber. I saw this earlier as well when I said there was life inside. They are tiny in here. It looks like little microbiology components, and there are many, and they're just close together, stacked. It's just tiny little life forms in here. Could be like microbial bacteria. We don't know yet. We don't know anything yet. There's some kind of life form inside. Many tiny new element. It's a secondary element. Almost forgot. Let's have a look here. SE. Life forms tiny, many inside. What do we want to call this thing now? Brown pole. Let's just keep looking at the brown thing here. This is so exciting and interesting. I've rarely had a target which is so much fun to do and so interesting as this one. Okay. This thing is ancient. Ancient. This is gonna be good. It's gonna be so good. This brown pole has been mushed. Like, it's soft and it's just been squashed, broken, fell apart on the ground. And I hear a loud sound, like a song, music, chime in the air, just near and around above it. What was that? Like a golden... I have to draw it. I saw this orange. I don't have a name for this, but I saw this orange pattern like this. And it was orange around it as well. Like a structure. This orange kind of shape, like a half circle, and orange around it. I don't know if I want to list it as an element. I'm not going to at this stage. Clock inside. Inside of this brown is a clock, a mechanism, and it spews a black smoke above it. Let's just list it as an element so that we can take a closer look. I didn't see what the clock would have looked like, but it's definitely a structural thing. So we can list it as an element. I just flicked this brown thing again and it said, ouch, it doesn't want to be hurt. Interesting. Like I've said before, this brown pole, it behaves like a life form, but it doesn't register as a life form. It has life forms inside it, but this brown thing itself, it even said, ouch, that it doesn't want to be hurt when I flicked it. Now, I've been remote viewing for 6 years. Object elements do not respond that way. This is like a living object in some strange way. Let's go back to the orange. I'm doing this a bit chaotically, but there's a reason. I'm not doing methodically like I usually would. I'm just trying to stay on the interesting elements the most and first. So let's go back to this orange, which has the metal can inside. Strong structural integrity. Ouch, it broke my legs off. What? This is, in all my remote viewing of all time, this is one of the most unexpected and interesting descriptions that RV gives me. A Bavarian cornucopia for this tin can. Bavarian, I think, is a region of Germany. Yes, it is. It's a part of Germany in the south of Germany, I think. And cornucopia, it's this, in the old times, they used to have this basket or shell, seashell or basket, which was shaped like a horn. And they would put all these fruits inside, like a cornucopia is like this bowl of fruit, but it symbolizes abundance and luxury and treasures, like edible treasures, like having a container which is almost holy and filled with so many goodies. So a Bavarian cornucopia. So this cornucopia is also a container, and a can is a container. So for some reason, it's just filled with goodies, some kind of, it's just, RV thinks that these words are appropriate in describing it. So we've gone from can, now we would call it a Bavarian cornucopia. So as we go along in this session, the names and premature labels are going to change and evolve. The closer we get to the final target identity where we know exactly what to call it, the name will change and go closer and closer to the actual name that would be even more appropriate. So, a Bavarian cornucopia. It capsized over. It has fell over. And the tree did too, remember? It is captivated. Meaning this can, cornucopia can, it has been captured or got stuck or something of the kind. That's what captivated means in this case. It is captivated. It has injured someone. We cannot really go inside anymore. We can watch it capsize over. We have seen it do that. It hurts my stomach with a saw blade inside it. It has this thin disc with serrated edges around, like a saw blade, like a round one, and that hurts my stomach. Life form is inside it. It has been hoisted up on a mechanism. There is this metallic tower directly under it and behind it. Let's use this one. There he is. It's this framework of metal, which it's not a ladder, it's like a square shaped. It's very thin and tall. Now the proportions are a bit off. This metal can is attached to this tower and has been hoisted up on it, so it's above the ground, attached to this tower thing. This can shrapnels, it becomes shrapnel, like metal shrap's bits. It doesn't want to go anywhere. Heat is emanated. This metal can is emanating heat. It has fallen over, like capsized. It is attached to its surroundings. It is massive in design. It has many fuming bits, emitting smoke or vapor or gas. It has metallics inside it. It is scratchy on the outside. It is scratchy on the outside surface. It has a friction to my hand. My hand does not slide across it smoothly. It has many bits and parts. It has stagnated. Stagnant, when Arvi tells me stagnant, it means something that is no longer active or moving, something that has just stopped and become old and just is there for some time. Kind of like not doing anything anymore, stagnated. It can also mean old and putrid and things like that. Let's just properly touch this thing. Let's find out. Let's do some tracing on it. It's kind of mean to do tracing on the initial elements paper, but let's do it anyway. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Heat is emanated on the outside. It almost looks like it has burned. It has been broken and bent like metal. No, let's not do a paper tracing, it's too early. Let's just touch this thing. I don't want to break my protocol, my method. We're not tracing it yet. I have to save that for later, but we can touch it at this stage. So I'm going to just touch it here and there and see what we feel and find out. Blubber, it has this soft gelatinous blubber on the exterior top. Not on top of it, but on the wall, higher up, there's this blubber which is soft and rubbery. Very interesting. It has a blinking red light. There's a blinking red light on it. Let's just draw that. There's some green plants under it. Under it here are some green plants somehow under it. Yellow glue is emanated from it. There are some seats and chairs inside. And cabinets and cupboards inside this can. It has spun around a lot, like a satellite, around itself. It wants to hurt me. It has crashed. It has been moving around a lot. Okay, this one is finished. Then we go to the brown black thing that registers as a tree. Silica. It consists in part of silica, which is in the shape of almost like glass, a solid hard silica, like a plastic glass form, not a soft rubbery silica. It has rubber wheels under it. Black, like rubber tires. Big. It could still be something other than wheels, but that's what you would call them if you saw them at this time. There's like maybe 4 of them, I think. We'll find out. It's like this rubbery cushion kind of feel under it. It is attached to the orange. It doesn't want to capsize over, but it did. No children play here. It is a rather serious and solemn place. There's a lot of glass here, like window glass. No plants are on it. Like no plant life, no green. Nobody hates this thing. Nobody hates this thing. This thing is rather, or instead, acknowledged. People acknowledge this thing, but they don't hate it. Nobody hates this thing. There's a pit in the ground. Oh my goodness, this is beautiful. Oh wow. Hey, you're gonna love this. Oh my gosh. This is amazing. It has, this is such beauty. It has this incredibly beautiful structure. Let's see if I can draw it with some. So it turns out that the brown initial color could just be a color anomaly, as I call it, which means initially an element might have one distinct color, which turns out isn't its actual color. And as we get more detail, it reveals its finer details and another color. It's this cage structure again, same as we drew with the can, which means it could be the same element, and it most likely is. It's this cage structure, and it has this white or pale gray bars. So pretty. It was just so beautiful. The architectural design of it is just magnificent. And on the top it is wider and opens up. And on the bottom it is this narrow structure. So pretty. I wouldn't usually get this detail at this stage of the session. So I'm very puzzled. I'm rather puzzled by that this should jump out at me now, but it did. So we let it. So pretty. Are we really getting everything? So this one's finished. They're doing the tree thing, which is here. Hot. It's so hot that it stings when I touch it. This cage thing with the brown thing in it, or it's the same thing. People are moving inside it. It doesn't want to capsize or fall over. It's moving about a lot. It's swaying. It's moving about this cage structure here that I drew here on the brown tree pole thing. It's moving and swaying, and it seems quickly like this. Maybe only on the top. It seems to have its position on the bottom, maybe, but at least on the top there's this movement, bending almost, or I'm not sure if it bends its structure, but it moves and tilts. There's a disease here, something that would affect our health. A liquid. There's a liquid here that is putrid and it's yellow. And it's down here. There's this putrid yellow liquid. A lot of people come here to see this. These people, remember when we drew the life forms inside? It is not, we don't know that they're not humans because the people who came here on the outside, they are this small. So this structure is massive, as you can see. So it's as if there was ground here, maybe. We haven't confirmed it yet. These people come here to this structure, and the people are so tiny compared to the structure. Here we go. Glass. It feels like glass, which glass feels like solid, smooth, kind of cold, and chewy. When you remote view glass, it's actually kind of like, it's very stretchy material. It looks solid, but when you're inside it, it's actually a chewy substance, gum-like. That's what the material I found here on the exterior has, that glass feeling. Oh, no, it's IP, it's fine, it's correct. It emanates this chime, which creates this sound, vibration. From the top, there's this sound emission, but you can feel the sound. You didn't hear it this time, but you could feel it. Let's skip this life form for now, because if it's important, we will find it later. Gas chamber we will also not probe here, because we don't really have it as an element. The road, however, we will take a closer look at, because I'm trying to be a bit more sensible rather than thorough on this session, meaning we don't have to look at every element thoroughly because they will return. So now we're looking at this road thing, which registers initially as a road. So probing this road to investigate it closer, this road path has glass shrapnel on it. I find a lot of seats, like chairs, that are lined up like several rows, short rows. And somewhere is a gas chamber. There are lots of life forms on this road. Someone is pushing a button to ignite, activate something. There are no items on this road. Softness, some kind of fabrics. Someone somewhere or something is pushing around items. This road thing, belongs to life forms. Life forms own this thing. Something about a metal retardation. A metal retardation is active. There's a process by which a metal is held back or slowed down. This road itself resists damage. There are some kind of suits on life forms. Not really clothes, but suits, and fabric captivated suits. Suits where you feel captive inside, kind of like an enclosure suit. There's no danger here at this road thing. There is nothing wrong with equipment. And RV says something about hazard and damage, but either is or isn't. So the concept of hazard and damage, either as a positive that it exists here or that it distinctly does not exist here, these words are nonetheless relevant. Nothing is glorious or pretty here at this road. It's a solemn place. Nothing busy or hectic. There's no water here, no liquid on equipment. Lots of little pieces are on this road. Hot heat, the road is emanating heat. There is a clock here, a clock that is damaged and is being repaired. It smells bad here, lots of equipment, a damage, a massive headache, and a massive headache. I just did a series of tap probes on the little tiny life forms that are inside of this vertical tower thing. I'm speechless. This is interesting. Let's just go with it. This is the RV data. I'm just going to read from my notes. There's no way I can sum this up myself. So let's just read. This is from the tap probes. Squabbling like chatter, mayhem, mess, lots and lots of activity. They hate each other, and that is because they are crammed in a small space. They want to get out. Lots of libraries of books are inside. They are reading them. Lots of instructions, manuals. They hate one another and they can't wait to get out. They feel trapped like in a prison. That's the feeling they have of themselves. Not that I would think or I would feel that. They of themselves feel that they are trapped like in a prison. That is the feeling they have. They are reading fast and then they go to sleep to rest. They bite each other and they do that out of hate. There is so much hatred here and friction between personalities. No one is famous here. No one here wants to be known. They squabble a lot and then they go and eat from puddles. A liquid nectar that is taken in, ingested or eaten. They have fabric shoes that form no friction with the underside. They can look around too with eyes. They have gummy on their face, a gum on their hands. Wrapped, encapsulated, they are reading literature. They are moving about quickly, running. They hate one another so much. They are spelling errors and mistakes in the literature text. They run fast here, hectic. They remember nothing of what they read, and that is why they have to go and read it all over again. They feel a misery here. They want to leave, but they feel that they are captived. They resign to be here, which is kind of like they just give up and almost accept that this is where they're going to be, even though they want to leave. They jump, they create sparks when they jump. They ignite things with their bodies. They are trapped here. They are fooling no one about what they do. What they do is all clear to somebody. They read and then they sleep. And then they wake up the next day and do it all over again. They try to bite each other, and they do that out of hate. They have their own sleeping chambers, prison chambers, and they never try to escape or leave, get out. They have a madness mess in their head, in their mental space or mind. They do friction with each other. They don't want to be here. They bite each other. They feel trapped here. They eat liquid. They make friction, rub against each other. They make noises. They fall out of here. And then they climb back up again, quickly climbing up again. It's the RV data, let's just say that. Interesting, interesting. I seem to be looking at some electronics, some circuitry, which is unlike what we have. This really takes me back to university when we had a little bit of electronics study and electronic components and like a bit of quantum physics and all of that. But this is completely something different. It reminds me of the electronics that we have today, like circuit boards inside computers kind of thing. But this is different. Let's just say what I saw. Okay, so I did some flick probes on these little living things. So these little things, let me just say, at this stage, they look like fuzzy little white creatures. We will find out more later. This is in the middle stage. We're getting closer, but let's just describe what it looks like right now. It's like these little white life form beings. They're tiny. And they're covered in white fuzzy hairs. And they have these big mitten gloves on with white hairs. And their feet also have these thick, hairy shoes or slippers on. And their body also this white suit with hairs. These things, it's like they're tiny life forms, tiny little creatures. However, they are incorporated parts of an electronics of some kind. Okay, these little fuzzy beings that are inside of this structure in the center, these little red dots I drew on the inside, they squabble. Squabble is they start chattering like this sounds, quick sounds like an animal almost, and then they bite me with their mouth, their teeth. They are not real life forms, RV says. They are not benign. They're moving, pushing here. They feel information in libraries. They soak up the information. These beings are reading devices. These life form things themselves are devices which read information. They are trapped. They drink liquid from puddles. They form sparks, ignition. They are hairy, fuzzy. They have many fibers like cables inside them. These hairs on the exterior of their body and these thick white mittens and slippers on their feet, these hairs, like a fur, these hairs are fibers, and these fibers act like electronic cables that are on these little moving beings. Now, they're not electric cables, metal, like electronics we have, it's a metal string which has some kind of insulator, usually a plastic or such, wrapped around it. But these fuzzy things, the hairs on their body, the thick fur of hairs, these individual hairs themselves are fibers which act like cables. These creatures have minds that remember nothing, and they sleep so that they can reset and unignite sparks. These beings or things, they absorb information, but they are made or constituted in such a way that they do not have a long-term memory. They have minds that do not remember anything. And they also go to a sleep phase where they reset and unignite sparks, by which they definitely forget everything they just learned. So they let go of the information. It's an important part of their entire existence. And also so that I think they can pick up information again. It's a very short-term information storage, because they do not remember, and then they go to sleep as well, and definitely just let go of anything they would have picked up in terms of information. Now these little critters, they bounce up and down here. They are part of a mechanism, and with that they move items around, they push switches, they activate ignition sparks, they move objects around, and then they sleep here. They are running around hectically in panic. They move blocks. The blocks ignite sparks too. Interesting. These little critters, when I move them, push them, they start squabbling. They start talking real fast, chattering like an animal. They want to go to their sleeping chambers. They want to get unstuck. They are happy when they are with me. They are happy when they do not remember anything. They want to forget everything they have known. They talk with each other. The chatter is them communicating, talking with each other. They pass down information that way when they talk and chatter with each other. They are resilient. They smell like perfume, and someone smells like putrid. They push blocks and switches, and then the fire comes down the path. There was, in the same chamber that these critters are in, there was a big orange fire that started on one end, and this fire expanded and grew and burned across like a line. These critters are resilient. I cannot break them. They sleep here. There are these thin, long, very thin fiber threads that are attached to them from somewhere else, many threads. And these threads are not tense, they're kind of limp, hanging a bit. And these critters move about. These critters have minds that do not remember anything. And there's this puddle which contains sugar water that feeds them. These critters feel powerful when they ingest the sugar water from a puddle. The critters have no brains to think with. They cannot activate their own mind. And so they feel hectic due to outside sources. These critters, the surface of the hand has like a thick white mitten made out of white fur with hairs, fibers. But this structure, this exterior structure, it's not a dense surface structure. It's just filled with holes, gaps, almost like I don't know, it's just holes. And inside, as soon as you push a little bit into this surface, it's massively cold, very icy chilled on and inside them. They're absolutely cold, these critters. Inside this critter is some kind of a glowing, vibrating yellow ember spark contained inside. And these critters have no mouths to feed with. Rather, when they ingest this liquid puddle, it's more like absorbing, like soaking it in. It smells like a perfume fragrance on them. This time it smelled like roses. Earlier, when I had this perfume fragrance on them, I would have described it almost like a man's cologne. This time it was like roses. They do not remember a single thing that they have done. They cannot remember with the mind. These creatures do not form any waste product. Instead, the ignition dissipates heat, and that is their only waste emission. and they form friction by rubbing with movement against something else, forms a friction from rubbing. And these critters have no biological tissue that I can recognize. Either that they have a biological tissue, but it's not like anything I would recognize from before, or that they simply do not have a biological tissue of any kind at all. First we do the box. Okay. Let's do a paper tracing. They're always fun. Starts with a TS probe, of course. I grab my arms again, which is good because we're getting at this later or middle stage of the session, we're going back to the target signal and we're getting the same thing we got in the very beginning. That's a really good sign that we are doing this right. I mean, we're doing good. It's a good session. Something has burned here. An ignition that was false. Something jumps up. The orange element. Let's do the orange element. So we're going to do a paper tracing on it, which is really good. So we have this orange element again, seen as initial element stage, just as one color blur. Let's do a bit of paper tracing. Paper tracing. Here we go. Puddle inside, just like we had last time or earlier. This blue puddle. There are these little green things that are like sparks that are just flying out of there from the center. Interesting color. It's not really green, it's this interesting green, which is a bit odd. Something is feeling trapped inside, and there is a lot of heat inside. There's a hollow resonance chamber inside. A pushed block. A yellow glow light. There's this yellow light glow. There's a drop down. Like we could go this way and then we could fall down here. So this is just like a ledge, or just to indicate that we could fall down. And here come the interesting paper tracing shapes. So something that goes like this. So this blue here, there's some kind of a resistance push, some kind of a force material with a force, some distance away from the orange. Lots of heat. And there is just lots of heat inside the orange. Heat. Oh. Oh. What? What is that? It's this shape. Like, it's wider on the top. I'm not sure about the bottom yet. It's like this disc. And this thing appeared to be solid. It appeared to be, and it appeared to have that same brown orange brass color. It was ugly and beautiful. It was ugly in a beautiful way, and it was beautiful in an ugly way. It's really ugly, but beautiful. More ugly than beautiful, actually. But it's really hideous. It's not like you like seeing it, but it has a beauty in of itself. It resists damage on its bottom part. It has to do with forces and design and constitutions and just things that I don't have words for, but there's under it, on the bottom, there is a resistance to the damage. It's like a suction. It's almost like the air becomes thick like a cushion under it so that it resists damage. It's this distortion of, it's this cushion. It's very similar, if not the same, as the resistance push that we found to the side, on one side of it, a bit away. It's the same concept of this thickening of a force and a push, this padding effect or containment effect of some kind. A sound is emanated from this, a sound. It's a sound, but you do not really hear it, but you will feel it, and it is a sound, so it could be outside of the range of human hearing, because I don't hear it, but I feel the vibration, and it is a sound. I mean, our human senses are not the definition of what is what. Just because I don't hear it doesn't mean it's not a sound. Yeah? Sound emission. These are sound waves. There's this strong wrapping effect. Like if I go this way, if I go here, if I go this way, if I go here, there's this strong wrapping effect, like a push. Could be a structural integrity, a strength, or just this pushed together feeling sensation. There's some water or liquid here. What's going on? There's some water or liquid here. Let's just write liquid. Liquid includes the possibility of it just being water. I write liquid. Usually the blue waves are just water, but since we have the sound emission, it looks similar. I want to be clear that this is a liquid, not a sound emission. There is a spark here. Outside, there's this. Up here, outside of the main element, we have a spark. So outside of the main structure, there is a spark, this thing, some kind of a spark, a push downward. Again, this resistance push. This time I would draw this push as a bit of a reddish. Here, there's this push downward. It's making music. It's making a melody, a beautiful sound. I could hear it, this one. This time I heard it, it sounded real pretty. So this red thing is a push downward. Lots of sharp serrated edges are on it. It picks up liquid. This thing drinks. Which might sound really weird when I say it, but then we remember there is a liquid inside. So let's just look at this liquid that's on the inside. No way. This liquid on the inside, this liquid remembers things. This liquid remembers things. This liquid is an ignition fuel. Okay, now it makes sense. I told you. Well, I didn't tell you, but I'm telling you now. RV always makes sense. It can sound so crazy initially because you're not getting it's not being expressed in a way that makes sense to you yet, but it still speaks complete, true, and honest. This is a structure of some kind which picks up liquid. That sounds weird, but turns out when I look at this liquid, inside, the liquid is an ignition fuel. Not so strange anymore, is it? We have to be patient with RV and let it speak because it is what it is, you know? It can sound really weird initially, but as we get more and more, everything starts to make sense. That's the fun and beauty of RV. So let's just look at this liquid some more. This liquid gets sprayed or ejected. This liquid is not water inside the structure. It's gummy. It has a gummy-like texture. It has a thickness, a viscosity. It's an ignition fuel, combustible for the flame. I taste some of this ignition fuel and it burns my tongue. Not like fire, but the taste is like burning on the tongue. It's bitter, corrosive almost on my tongue. Ow! Something grabbed my wrists there and grabbed me. A chime. This thing lets out a beautiful chime, a sound, like a music almost. It's very delicate, pretty sounding. Heat. Lots and lots of heat emission. This red in the center is heat that we drew. music. Shrapnel. A mess. Things are bouncing inside there, like just bouncing around. It has sharp things that would hurt my legs. It moves around. It dunks itself into water and then it picks up the liquid. Let's take a look at what kind of liquid it goes into. Is this structure going into the ignition fuel or is it just into water? I find a life form and it says to me, we live here. There's some kind of a sound emission device and something that reminds of a rocket. Did you come to meet me? A life form asks me. It's this structure. It looks like inverted. Its shape is like an inverted shape. It's this. It's like a cup that you almost started to invert and push inside out, and then it has this protruding tip on the center outside, and it's hollow under it, so from the outside you could go under and inside it. And it's like a cup that you started to flip inside out but only got halfway. So it's like it's a bit like this, indented in the center. And this is from a different angle. I mean, it has like a inside, this would be hollow, and then here is this tip. It's definitely the can element, but now we're starting to get more detail. What am I drawing here? It's just, you know, you go into a session and you're in this haze and you're just picking at things, and then sometimes you're like, oh my god, what am I actually doing here? Like so. Yeah. So I find the orange element from the target signal. It has many cables and wires there, and there is a life form there. And the life form says, we need to eat here. There's some kind of a window glass, or at a minimum, some kind of a reflective solid surface, probably see-through. And within, on the inside side from this glass surface, there is an interior space in which a fire is burning. And in this fire, I see little particles that are burning up. They are fuel particles that are feeding this flame. The orange element, it is a kind of a library, which implies that it contains information. We have a large structure which is U-shaped. RV said that it is a swing-shaped turbine. And it's dark. Let's just do a paper tracing on it right away as we just drew it. It makes sense to do that because this shape anyway is probably not its perfect shape, and we also want to know what's around it. Oh, there are lots of little bits here. They're not necessarily orange, but orange is the color I get, among others, for items initially. And they're still blurry. So there's some small items right there. And the life form walks here, and we can see from the size of the life form, presumably human size, we don't know yet, that this structure is large. And there is a path here for people or life forms to walk on. Here is a path for the life form. There is a glass chamber on top of it. Here is a glass chamber. Microcrystals are here. Microcrystals. A strong locking mechanism, force. Like some kind of things that wrap around these structural parts, components on either side. These things that kind of go like this. Oh, very interesting. Oh my god. I love remote viewing. This is so cool. This funny arcane thing, which by now looks like this, the orange, brown, rusty, it's on the inside, on the center, and it has this shape here. It was in here, and it really has this ugly, it still shows this ugly brown-orange color. We don't know yet what its actual color will end up being. It could still be a color anomaly-ish. But we'll find out. But I saw it inside here. It doesn't mean yet anything. We're just, you know, at this stage still, we're getting closer and closer. It's not finished yet. It's just step by step. But we're starting to have composite structures, finding places where things are and how this thing relates to that, and things are coming together. So it was really good to see this element that we're already fairly familiar with and to find its place as we're looking at a different structure. So it's coming together. So that made me happy. Some kind of liquid is in here. Liquid drops are dripping here. Drops of liquid. Something crashed here. It feels like there's a crash or breakage on this glass here. Let's just draw some cracks. It smells putrid. A path or a road is close to here somewhere. Is the path or the road, presumably simply the same one as we had early in the session. Some devices are here. some devices under it. Orange because we don't really know, it's just an item, so it shows up as orange at this stage. But it registers as, or gets the premature label of devices and shows as the initial color of item, which is orange. Other things can be orange as well, but items almost always are. And then as we look closer, they start to get their actual colors. A chamber mechanism. Let's look at this bow shape, which is the root. This is the root element. This bow shape here is the one it's the reliable element or impression here that we are adding to. So we're doing a paper tracing on it. A liquid oil. It feels like it's been smeared with liquid oil. A lot of heat. There's just so much heat on the inside here. This is heat. Not a life form this time, this is heat. Let's just write things because we're gonna lose track of what's what. Let's just write here because we're gonna start losing track of things. And I don't want misunderstandings about what's what. Heat. Metal. Encasement. I'm seeing this structure which looks like it seems to have maybe no. This time it was like a paler color. Let's do a paper tracing on this impression right here. Right away, what is that? Okay, let's do paper tracing. It has burned. There's some kind of a shelf or box under it. Now that's interesting that we're getting a box element. There is this box under it. This is very closely connected to our orange element, the main orange element. Unless they're against each other or a part of each other or the same. That's how close they are. There's this wire here. Under it. Glass. This whole exterior surface is reflective, like a glass. Similar to glass, if not. At least on this side. I cannot assume it to be on all sides. I'm not allowed to just extrapolate. This is like a reflective glass. Not assuming for the whole structure, of course. Heat. Inside is heat. A tunnel. People are inside. There are people in here. I'm just gonna draw. These people are much smaller than this, but our drawing is too small. I can't really. Okay. Don't forget, I just had an impression. I have to draw it quick before it goes away. Alright, so on top of it we have this orange. Weird how it was on top of it. This orange, it just has this look and feel as if it's been inverted, kind of like you try to, if you have a cup, a normal cup, and you start trying to push it, the bottom upwards, so that you're inverting it, like trying to flip it inside out. It just has that feel and or look. And this is the orange one. Could turn out later to not be orange. Are there really two like this? We don't know. Probably not. Let's just keep working here. Paper tracings can look weird, but they are very, very powerful to trace things out. So now we have this one from a fairly reliable, not from the target signal, but fairly reliably here. Interesting. Huh. It is what it is. We get what we get. There's like a scaffolding, like this fencing of some kind across here. Brown, dark brown, kind of a fencing, scaffolding. Glass. Now we're getting glass again, which is good because it's consistent. Glass, or otherwise just looks like glass, but as we see, it's not orange. Orange may turn out to be a color anomaly, meaning it's just initially looks of a different color than it actually turns out to be, which is normal in my remote viewing. So this is like glass-like coloration or reflective, bluish, white-ish. So these two, top and bottom, turn out to be similar. Probably turns out to be the same element, but we'll just keep going. Heat is dissipated inside. Yeah, it's been turned. Now I have to draw it again on the top of this one. Now I have to do it again and flip it one more time. Now it's this orange one, turns out it was turned, this protruding bit has been turned into itself so that it flips again. Could be anomalies, but to do with the structure and shape, but sometimes you get movements and things that aren't really happening. So it's like this, it's been flipped again. Flipped. What color? I'll just give this a generic gray color. We don't really know yet. This is all, we are still in fuzzy land. We don't know yet what things look like. I haven't even checked for symmetrization, which is to look all around to see that it actually goes all around. It could be hollow on one side, it could have a thing on one side, but we're still not drawing the complete. We're still in the second stage. We're not in the third final stage. Things are still weird. They will be weird for a while, but they're getting less and less weird, believe it or not. We're getting more detail, more structure, we get more of everything all the time. So let's just keep going. Let's keep doing paper tracing here. On this one, glass-like. Here again is glass-like. Here is glass-like, bluish, reflective. Glass-like. Or just reflective. Reflective can look like glass. Sometimes water sometimes looks like glass but feels liquid. So this glass-like reflective. Let's keep looking. Does it have a text on? This could be what you call it, preliminary. It could be just a, it could be just an interpretation of a text. This is by no means certain yet, but for some reason I had the impression that it would have said a text which says like this, leaning USSR. I don't know exactly what it stands for, but it's an impression. It could turn out to be some other text. It could be no text. Very likely there is a text, but it's still weird. It's still blurry. But I will draw what I see. You always put what you get. And things get clearer and clearer. It could be a different text. So don't take this literally yet. But USSR, whatever that means. I had this impression, so I put it there. Let's keep going. Let's investigate that thing by, this time not from an actual impression, but let's take a close look at the bottom. This is not an impression, but it's a bit risky to do this. However, I'm borrowing it from... So this is the underside seen from the bottom. This is definitely the orange element, no question about that. This is the can element, basically. It shows up with this color. Could be color anomaly, we will find out. We just keep doing this. Alright, so we're on the bottom of this thing, and this protruding part would be above. So we know it's a bit of a hollow-ish on the bottom. So now we're going and looking at the bottom from the underside to see what we have there on the bottom of it. So this is looking from below, we're looking up into the bottom. See what's there and feel what's there and take a look. There's something here which continues, and this reminds me of the gray, of the things we drew here, remember? Oh, very good. This liquid, which we've had here before. Consistency is good, meaning when we get the same stuff repeatedly in the same places, that's excellent. Because because if you forget and you still get it, it's good. There are many chairs in here. Many chairs. 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 It has wings. So we drew one, but there's like wings on it. And sound emission. There's a library of information inside. Let's read this. So I'm reading this library of information, and it reads: channels, maneuvering, steering, optical sensors, mechanistic models, how to use a steam engine better, ley lines, a photon emission, a rudimentary cup, a putrid steering mechanism. So that's the kind of information which is stored in this library of information inside our structure. There is a box here, there is a box here. We also earlier found a box under it, remember? So this kind of consistency, when you get the same thing again, is perfect. There's a dark box here, which we also had here, remember? So we're getting the same stuff, which is excellent. This box can be hoisted up and lowered, and it's covered in glass. Glass box. So again, this reflectiveness, glass-like appearance. A life form is clinging onto it right there on one side. Here it has an indentation, so it's not a box shape on this side. It goes inward a bit. Here is a strong heat emission. This is heat, not fire, from this box in this direction. Heat emission. Heat. I have to write heat so we know it's not fire. It's just heat. Does not imply fire. It could be a fire, but we don't know yet. So kind of wires or bars that go like this to or from the box. And a big red thing. We don't know what it is yet. Kind of ball shaped all around. This thing moves around like this. It just spins around. Okay, what do we want to do now? Let's look at the front. Or I'm not sure if there is a front and a back end. We're using the wings as a reference because the wings are asymmetrical. So the wings imply there to be this side and this side, right? Due to the wings, that's the only reason we can kind of look here and there and have like what's what, a reference. So let's see what's here in this region. A positioning device. So here somewhere is a positioning device, whatever that means. Let's have a look here. This end drinks up liquid. Liquid goes in here. It drinks it up. And then this liquid forms a spray or a steam. There's some more wires here at this end. These dark brown wires, like so, like that. Interesting. So we get again this shape, which is this indented this time here, and this time it looked pink, which is what we see. This part, this pink thing, is submerged in liquid, which makes sense because just earlier we had that from this end liquid is ingested into the structure. And this thing shows up again as the orange. Like so. On the bottom of it, there are lots of fibers, like thin wires of some kind. Glass-like, made out of glass, or just this glass-like reflective appearance and feeling. And it's held in place by a rigid structure which is like this dark brown wires or bars holds it in place, kind of. Liquid pump. So this liquid, liquid comes in here through a liquid pump, which makes sense because we have this liquid here. So this liquid goes this way in a liquid pump. Okay, what is this? We're kind of starting to, it's kind of starting to make some sense, but it still makes almost no sense. Because I'd say we are about, in this, if a session is 4 parts, we're in part 3 out of 4. That's how much sense this is making at this stage. It's like we are 3 out of 4 parts in terms of how much sense it makes. In the 4th part we finish and it will make perfect sense. In the beginning part it made no sense, it was just blur. And we're kind of in the 3 out of 4. It still makes some sense, but it also makes no sense. Because we don't have the whole. We don't, this is weird still, but it's starting to reveal its intricacies. Let's look at this wing thing as a paper tracing, because we don't trust it. We don't trust that this is this. So we have to take a look at this. It kind of wraps around, so it's not like this, it wraps around instead. So I usually don't ever allow erasing from a drawing, but here it's okay. It's okay in this time, but normally it's never ever okay to erase something, but this is one of those times, yeah. It wraps around, it's not really outward. So remember, this is from the underside. We still have like everything on the top and sides. This thing is also made out of glass. This wing thing that wraps around is also glass-like. Like a glass. Like a glass-like. What is the purpose of this whole entire thing. A chamber. What is the purpose of chamber? Information recording device. So this thing is for information recording, which kind of ties to the library thing, but not necessarily the same. This whole thing is a chamber, and the purpose of this chamber is information recording device. Interesting, huh? So it's not for transportation, primarily. It's not a weapon. It's an information recording device. Now, what information? Oh, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. Oh my god. Oh. Goosebumps. This information feels so cool. Like I'm feeling the information before I could say the words, but wow, that's cool information. Wow, let's take a look. Oh my gosh, what kind of information is being recorded in this chamber? So it's very dense, it's very compact. It's not just whimsical. It's the opposite of whimsical information. It's very dense. It's compact, it's solid information. It feels really cool. Let's take a read. Storage device. Locked up with a key. No more purpose. Okay, no more purpose. That's everything we got from purpose. It was kind of harshly said. No more purpose. Like, done, finished. That's it. I rarely get such a harsh, stop it. That's all there is. Stop looking for more. It's not like dismissive, like secrets, like, no, don't look. It's like, that's it. End. Finished. Okay, let's just leave it. I don't dare to question or challenge that kind of a harsh dismissal. Like, that's it. That's all. So what do we have here? So this is the underside, don't forget. Let's keep looking underneath it. It spins around with a yellow spark rocket, but it looked like it was doing it on the ground. Let me just, I don't want to draw it, I want to describe it. Our main structure spins around in a circular path of some radius from a center. Several spins around the same circle path, and there is a scratchy sound from the yellow sparks emission at the back. It seemed to be spinning on the ground or just above the ground, and there may have been a rigid bar connecting to the structure and to the center of the circle. It was just going around, and there was this sound from this yellow emission or ignition at the back of it. And there may have been like a pole which connects from the center to the structure so that it's spinning at the end of a pole. That's what I saw. Let's keep looking at the underside. It has been made dumb. This structure has been made dumb. That's how it's designed to be. It's stupid. Now this instantly reminds me of the little creatures that we found, which were also dumb in that they could not remember any information that they had for short-term memory. it was similar to that. Let's go inside. Let's do inside. And again, I'm drawing from memory, so it's not the best, but that's what we're doing. So let's assume that this is the inside. We know we have a box. See? This is good. Here we drew the box, not directly under the center, but on the side. And here the box was also on the side. This is perfection. This is pure perfection. Excellence. So we know that the box is here. This is beautiful to actually know that. Now remember, the box was glass-like. The box was glass-like. So we're not going to look at the exterior as we have up until now. Now we're going to look at the inside. Let's start with if there is an interior wall. We don't know that. It could be stuffed and full of substance so that there is no interior wall to touch. But let's see if there is. Oh, there's a big window. Okay, so this is away side, not, this is like into page side. There's a big window there. Or just glass like material, we don't know, but it registers as a window. That's what RV wants to call it. So that's there. And then we have burning heat. Burning heat, we got, there's this heat burning here. Heat. Let's just write, I don't want anyone to think it's a fire just because it's red and like that. So we have to write heat. We don't know yet. It could be fire, it could not be. We cannot make those kinds of assumptions. Here there is some kind of a structure. We're on the inside, remember? And there is a glowing lamp here. This thing travels like this, like this thing travels like this. Impenetrable armor. Now that's interesting. Impenetrable armor is found here. Let's just write that. That's a really cool words. Impenetrable armor doesn't imply all around, at least here. A clock is here. Some kind of a clock. Let's take a closer look at the clock. Signaling mechanisms. A fume counter. A signaling system. Never sleeps. So this clock never sleeps, which implies that it's always active, I suppose. This clock is powered not by the ignition fuel, but it has a different fuel source than the other fuel that we found earlier. I just saw this thing again. I just keep seeing this thing. It's this structure. And this whole thing has these bars, like, what do we call this? Funnel-shaped mesh. It talks. This thing is talking. This funnel mesh is talking. What does it talk? This is a fun stage of remote viewing, when you're getting things that seem lucid and make sense. At the same time, it doesn't make sense. So it's this fun, weird time. Here's some kind of a screen or a glass or a monitor. Like it had like a face on it, like it's some kind of a television or a screen or something under it. It had like an eye or a lens or something under it. So the talk itself, which occurs in this funnel, the talk itself consists of, or is, dissipating heat. The talk is movements. It's as if there are movements of something, and this movement is a talk, is a language, but it's not speech or words. It's movement which becomes a talk. I hope you understand what that means, because I just don't know how to better explain it. It's not like someone's talking. Something or some things move, and the pattern or the style of movements is a language, is a talking, in the form of a dissipating heat. This is the talk. We have, this funnel has many windows, and there are many life forms on the bottom of it. Life forms at the bottom. Hey, this thing, hey! Yes! This is when I love this moment! Oh my god! This is our first connections. I love it! This is our brown tree! We made a roundabouts and we, let me tell you. Wait, I love this moment. Like when you have your weird stuff in the beginning of a session, very early, you have these elements, initial elements and secondary elements that we have. This drawing here is the initial stage and the first part of the second stage. So we just had the elements, right? And we had this brown tree there on the right side, which turned out had this mesh structure around it. And these tiny little people were inside, and also you can see them outside, they were going to it. And now we've wandered outward, we made this trek, and we found other things, and we're looking around, and we just found this this funnel here. And we just started exploring this as if it were its own thing, because you don't you never rely on it. Like, you have to do independent work throughout. And turns out we've made a roundabout, and we came right back to our tree, which you see on the right, which has the exact same identical funnel structure. This is beautiful in so many ways. I don't even want to start to explain why this is incredibly beautiful and so good. It's exactly, yes, it's exactly it. This is when it's coming together. This is some of the most beautiful things that happen in a session. There are many beautiful things. This is one of them, when this happens. So now we know that everything we learned about this thing applies to this thing, and everything we learned about this thing applies to this thing. They are the same. This is very good. This is one of the most powerful moments in a session, with my method at least, which is really a success. It's really a progress. This is very, very good and very exciting. So now we know these little creatures that store the information, they're in there in the center. So let's just keep exploring it on this drawing, from this drawing. Let's just look inside. This is good stuff. This is really good stuff. This is beautiful. I still don't know what the heck this is, but we know things about it. We don't know what it is, but we know things about it. So we know many things about it now. So this is so beautiful. Oh, this is so beautiful. Let's look inside it in the set. Oh, it's a sound emission of this device. There's a sound emission from this device. It sounds like a language. It sounds like a man talking, but it's almost like a... Let's just keep listening. There's liquid inside and a pump. It's very old. It creates a beam. This thing creates a beam. Again, this isn't necessarily fire, but this beam gets blasted out from it. And again, I have to write beam because otherwise people say it looks like I drew fire. It could be fire, but we just don't know. This is all starting to feel familiar and makes some sense. And it's just going to keep getting better and better. Sleeping chambers inside. Inside the funnel there are sleeping chambers, which we already encountered before when the little critters that are there that have the short-term memory, they have their moment of sleeping, which is where they reset and forget the information which they are storing for a short time. Fuel ignition spent. Monitoring device. It has a blinking light on the top. There is a blinking light here on the top. And it was yellow, blinking. This is a signaling tube. It draws radio waves. A monitoring device. A resistance. It's like resistors in electronics, that kind of a resistance. We're getting somewhere. We are getting somewhere. Let's take a look. It spins around. Wow, we have on the bottom of this funnel, on the inside, we find this thing that stands out from the other structure is here in the middle. And then we have these concentric rings. And then we have this cylinder which encases it. This is on the inside, on the bottom. So this thing is this thing that sticks up from our structure before. It's inside here. I just need to color this in. It's very technical looking, all of this. A fuel ignition mechanism is here on this bottom. Okay, fuel. A power. Down here is power. Power. So this thing is this thing. This bottom is inside. It looks like this. A monitoring device. What is the funnel monitoring? Clocks. Activation mechanisms. What is the purpose of this funnel structure? It picks up water, liquid. It acts as a pump. What is the water needed for? Steam. To make steam, the water is used to make steam. Why is steam needed or made? The steam ignites the clocks. What are the clocks needed for? To make encampments. How do clocks make encampments? Counters. The clocks are counting something, almost like ticking. I don't feel like we're far enough in the signal to where we can ask the right questions and get the right answers. We have to keep unraveling the whole thing. But we are at this kind of a level of information where we can get this quality of clarity in our answers. But we can't go all the way yet because there's still some fuzz. It's still a bit weird, still a bit unclear. So it's not really yet able to just tell us just yet. But we're getting there. Who made the funnel? A funny guy made the funnel. What is funny about it? Weird answer. Weird answer that smells like the cologne again. What does the funnel do? Picks up something. And also it emits radio waves. Why does it emit radio waves? A signaling system emits them. Okay, so it's emitting radio waves because of the signaling systems. Now, this could just be a byproduct. The radio waves could be unintentional effect of having signaling systems, or the radio waves could even be intentional and a desired effect from this device, or Third option, the signals or signaling systems could themselves consist of radio waves rather than having it as an effect. And again, either intentionally so or just an unintended byproduct. We don't know the details, finer details yet. I feel like we cannot really ask any more questions at this stage of lucidity. We cannot really push more juice out of this lemon than we have available. We can't just ask RV to tell us what it is. We have to do the work. So this is what we have so far. And it's all consistent. This is all consistent with the initial stage. With the funnel especially, turns out is the tree. So it's all consistent. We're doing a good job. We're not wandering out into some weird imagination away from the signal. We're right back to where we need to be. We're consistently in the right place. So we're gonna start a new drawing. Just had some more visuals doing the EE probes. It looked like a tail end, and then this, again, this protruding part, and then like this, and like these two wings here, and the box and things are really on the bottom, and there was a ground here, so it was like moving across the ground, and this all appeared a bit grayish. So that's what we had this time. It's definitely our structure starting to make a bit more cohesive sense, and right away showing the wings and the box and the more things at the same time, and probably a color that is going closer toward its actual color, because it's probably not going to turn out to be so orange. So our structure got trapped in a path. So as it was moving rather fast in a circular trajectory, around and around in the same circular path, turns out that it was trapped as it was moving this way, kind of like gave me the sense that it was a mistake or a problem which caused it to move in a circle. I see a man who picks up this radio speaking microphone box and holds it toward his mouth, and he's speaking into it, and the sound that is created by speaking into this device, it sounds exactly like the talk broadcast that we had earlier in or from the funnel. This masked funnel thing shows up again, and RV calls it a radio sender, which we had before, that it emits radio waves, so it's all still very consistent with itself. On the bottom end of this, I think we had this before as well, so consistency is perfect. There's this bulge at the bottom. At the bottom here there is heat dissipation, which I draw like this yellow. We need to write that, because otherwise who's gonna know what this is? A truck brought in this funnel, and the truck had these long objects at the back of the truck, and these long objects at the back of the truck registered as missiles. It has like what registers as an umbrella over it. It has some kind of a thing over it. And this instantly, of course, reminds us of the other structure that we have been drawing. I will color this in a generic gray. It doesn't mean it is gray, but we have to give it some color so that we see that it's a solid structure. This thing glows with a yellow light. Here. There is either the same structure or a different structure. Something that's like a rocket. And this rocket is long and slender. And this rocket, it was in the dark. And it had a blinking red light up here on the side. Blinking. This thing here with the blinking red light, it is cold inside, and this thing does not use ignition. This structure, which is on top of the funnel, is wrapped around tightly so that it's almost like a canvas, very firmly holding like this. Again, I don't usually allow anything to be erased, but I'm technically adding to the picture. This thing is like a canvas, which is very tightly wrapped around and attached to this structure on the outside of it for the funnel. And our peculiar structure is actually sitting here on the top with this inverted, like you wanted to turn it inside out, like it's sitting here on the top. And this time it looked a bit dark green. Again, I will erase some parts because I am adding to it, like so. So we have finally, hopefully, reliably connected our two main structures, the funnel and this thing that started as the can. They're definitely part of the same structure. And this green thing feels like it is made out of glass. I think we've had that before as well. Glass or reflective, probably it's glass. Feels like it looks like it. And there's definitely this box under the top structure. There is this box as always. So when I ask RV, what is this whole thing? This whole thing is a communication device. No way. No way. So this top cap part that I drew earlier, this shape, it really has this thing. And this top here is glass, like a big window. And it is in a liquid, although it could also be a gas, because without closer probing, I don't really know the difference between liquid and gas yet. but it's in a liquid or gas. I mean, isn't everything? But anyway, that structure, this cap structure, it creates warm air under itself. And since warm air rises, it rises. Isn't this beautiful? Such a perfect idea. Who had this idea? I love it. We have, or I saw, this huge satellite dish kind of thing. Now there is somewhere the box. From the center comes up the mast. And this is the cage, the funnel thing, the radio sender. As it was called. It really looked like that thing. There's this huge dish somewhere in a tropical country on Earth, which is set like this on the ground. It just kind of looked like it, but we're not being that specific yet. And somewhere here, there are people running around, and also there are chairs to sit on. This radio sender, which is the funnel mast that looks like a cage, which we drew, for instance, here, this tall cage structure, it blinks yellow in the sky as it moves in the black sky, and it moves in a line trajectory, and it blinks yellow. And it is this funnel, which is a radio sender. The funnel mast, which is a radio device, it is a radio listening device. It is an intercepting device, and I get the sense that it can pick up on communications, to listen in on communications, which is really interesting. It's like, I don't know, is it eavesdropping? Why does it do that? There are books, and the books are, instead of paper books, the books are stacks of electronic images. Like a brown book-shaped but flat rectangle that is stored in the structure. Our device is able to broadcast television images like sports. It was as if it can transmit a television program such as a sports game. Our device is being transported by a car or a truck, and this vehicle is driving really fast and on a bumpy road, and it drives so fast that sometimes the whole truck hops up a little. And our device is at the back of this truck or car, and inside or in our device are several, with the initial color at least dark brown, thin rectangles that are stacked like this. And these stacked discs contain photographs, professionally made photographic images and films are in the device. Okay. Where do we start? I'm sorry my hair is like this. I like to lie down on the bed in between. Sometimes I was on the bed and just remote viewing. Then I jump up because I get some good stuff. And it's not like I'm gonna go and brush my hair. Hey, we got some good stuff. This thing, remember this U-shaped? We encounter it again, and it is huge. It is absolutely massive. And it's spinning around its vertical axis, right? And it's a magnet. So what do we know about moving magnets? They generate an electromagnetic wave, I think, or field. It generates an electric current. If you have a, okay, I'm too overwhelmed. I don't remember. If you move a magnet, it creates a no, I'm just trying to remember from physics. It creates an electric field. So you can generate electromagnetic waves, I think, by having a moving magnet. So if it's rotating, it's definitely going to create electric phenomena, like electromagnetic phenomena, because it's a. So here's what I know. I mean, this is all from physics. Okay, so what RV told me is that this thing is a magnet and that it's moving around the vertical axis. This is the vertical axis. Wait, I'll show you. I'm just overwhelmed. Wait, did I just forget some good stuff? No, I didn't. I remember. So this is the vertical axis, like we would draw it in physics. And it's rotating. It's not going up, it's rotating around the vertical axis. So if it's a magnet, it has a magnetic field at all times, right? This is, okay. So from RV, I know that this thing is a magnet and it's rotating around its vertical axis. End of RV, okay, for this. So what do we know from physics? Not from RV, but from physics. If you have a magnet, I love this stuff. If you have a magnet, it has a magnetic field. Like in between these two bars, it has a magnetic field which is parallel, fairly uniform. Here it starts doing stuff, but anyway, they're magnetic field lines. So it has a magnetic field. So whenever you move a magnet, it will cause an induction of. If you have an electric cable somewhere within the magnetic field, and no current, no voltage, voltage maybe, but no current flowing in the cable. If you move the magnet, it will stimulate a current. So I can't remember. This is horrible, but I think what happens is you can generate an electromagnetic emission, like a radiation. I don't remember, but something like this is definitely going on. So this rotating magnet, I'm just so excited. I just love this stuff. So it can vary the intensity of this emission. And here's the thing that gets me most excited, what RV said. So RV said that it can RV said that it can vary the intensity of the emission that results. Emission is not particles, it's some kind of waves, some kind of fluctuations, waves emanating here. So RV also said, and these waves are changing time. It's changing, the variable of time is changed within this emission. This is something we wouldn't know. I guess I could dive deeper, but it's really interesting. This spinning magnet is part of a radio emission device. It's part of such a larger composite structure. The spinning magnet emits television broadcast signals. So In the case of television broadcast, it's like video being emitted. I saw two big spheres which collided into each other, and one of them was an orange sphere and the other one was a black sphere, and it looked like space bodies colliding. It kind of looked like this. It looked as if these two space bodies or celestial bodies or whatever spheres they were on the same circular path, and it was as if the orange one is the one which rammed into the gray one. The gray one sort of just was there, maybe not even moving, but the orange one is the one that rammed in, using the same circular trajectory as the gray one exists on. We have this sphere in the air or sky, and we have a water which is turbulent, a water which is shifted or moved in a way that isn't typical. And what I saw was that water was being pulled into this orb, and it looked completely supernatural the way it happens. The yellow orb registers as if the yellow orb is made out of glass. Inside the yellow orb is this longer cylindrical tube, which is at least to one end meets the surface of this orb, and this tube, which is inside of the yellow orb, registers as being a resonance chamber. We also hear music or sound nearby or possibly outside of this orb. Now, the can from early in the session, which was orange-brown, this can comes out from inside of the orb, which I have drawn here with the orange-brown color. We cannot assume that the can and the resonance chamber would be the same element, even though they are similar. We only know that we have a resonance chamber inside and that the can comes out from inside. It is likely that the resonance chamber and can would be the same element, but we do not know that at this stage. There are no people inside the yellow sphere. The yellow sphere has grabbed me by my wrists and pulls me inward. A loud tone is emanated as the big yellow sphere is being lowered slowly downward vertically. There is no heat inside the sphere, and no heat on any of its components. The yellow sphere has technical components inside it, measuring devices and captives. It has sliding parts. The yellow sphere can be dragged or pulled along the ground horizontally. Something pink is inside the yellow sphere. The pink is being hoisted up and lowered down. The yellow sphere has a resonance chamber inside, which is a hollow tube. The resonance chamber remembers nothing. It has no memory capacity. The resonance chamber tube has music inside from moving parts. It has stairs to get up to it. We can move the resonance chamber around with our mind, and it does not resist being moved. The yellow sphere can be flattened easily, and then it chimes a tune. And at this point I saw this flat object again. It was as if the yellow sphere becomes flattened and it becomes this flat disc which has this bulge on top. The yellow sphere is greasy, it has oily parts. The yellow sphere remembers nothing, it does not know what it does. It only operates with heat. Heat steers it, navigates it. It follows air currents. It is not responsive to chemicals by means of scent perception. It has hostages inside it, many. The hostages want to get out. The hostages have seen me. They remember nothing about this place. And then I see the sphere with a wagon with wheels is set under the yellow sphere. The wagon itself is on the ground. So I finished a set of fresh probes on the resonance chamber, which was the tube that we found inside of the yellow orb. The resonance chamber. It is sturdy. It does not break easily. We could even drop it and no harm would be done on its surface. The resonance chamber is the same element as the can, which is not surprising because the can is a similar tubular shape with hollow inside, and we also saw that the can came out of the yellow orb, so finding out that they are the same element makes sense. We can accept that. The resonance chamber has sliding parts to move it. It has underneath these at least two blade shapes, and these blades are directly under the tube and they slide. So when the blades slide, that moves the resonance chamber. The resonance chamber is hollow inside, and there are air currents inside that flow through the inside of this tube. It doesn't have a memory capacity, it remembers nothing. We can pick it up easily and put it in our hand, the tube itself. It is a pipe. It has asphyxiating chemicals inside of this tube. No one is cleaning here, it is a mess. There's this liquid oil inside of this chamber. The oil has been ingested from the outside. The oil goes down to the moving sliding blades that are under the resonance chamber, and the oil will then drip down to the ground, down under our structure. There are sharp edges inside and something to sit on, broken glass shards. On one end of the chamber, the end which is closer to the outside or surface of the yellow orb, has a glass dome, which is the same glass dome that we saw earlier in the session as being part of the funnel structure. There are lots of small moving parts or components. No one lives inside it. It is breaking up a liquid into it. It feeds on the liquid, ingests it. The moving parts need the oil. It is made mostly out of glass, out of optics materials. There is no heat generated inside it, inside this hollow pipe resonance chamber. It makes sounds like bleep, 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 like a mechanical beeping. The resonance chamber is sturdy, made out of a rough material. It is resilient. On the top, close to center top of this hollow resonance chamber, there is a bulge. It has a camera and an optic lens. It follows and tracks movements with the camera optic lens. It has been modeled, designed, made to be sturdy. On the exterior surface, on the sides, it feels scratchy. It can be turned around swiftly. It moves, it slides around down on a wet surface. It has some kind of a paper with text on the exterior surface, some kind of big letters of text. Optic cables near the end that has the glass dome. It is a flying mechanism, and it collects and gathers data, which it feeds into its optics sensors. The data is then tracked down to Earth, where the data is then collected and received. It has wings inside the hollow chamber. At the opposite end, from the end which has the optical glass dome, on the opposite end, at the back, the resonance chamber tube has a slight bend upwards, so it is not entirely even or flat as a tube. This structure can be set on a track path, and it can be steered. It glows yellow. It makes a yellow glow and a hum as a steady humming sound. And it is actually flatter on the sides. So this hollow resonance chamber turns out to be the same thing as this structure that we have been seeing. And the two bits of evidence we have is, firstly, the bulge on the top is the same as this bulge here. And the flatter on the sides, which we found here as well as here, are this whole thing here. So it turns out that the can is the same thing as the resonance chamber, and that the resonance chamber is the same thing as we drew yesterday, which was the funnel, which also had this glass dome on the end, because this glass dome is the same as this glass dome here. And turns out that our resonance chamber is the same thing as this thing, which I never even quite really had a name for. And turns out that this yellow orb sphere is just a yellow light which shines, glows around our structure. So I put the can element through a series of fresh probes. The can element is hanging in the sky. It can be lowered and heightened, moved vertically up and down by means of wind currents. It uses air, or the concept of hot air, to move vertically with, which we also saw earlier with the yellow orb, which was being pushed down by hot air that was directly above the yellow orb. The can element does not remember anything. It has no memory capacity. It has a bone-breaking, crushing ability if we fall into it or get sucked into it. And I saw air being sucked into or flowing into the can from the outside. It remembers nothing. It has no mind. The can element gets sucked on wind currents. It travels with wind currents and has moving wind current lines directly underneath it. It rides on pockets of air. It stays afloat that way. It has heat. It has no glass parts. It is in an air pocket. It rides along. The pink thing is inside it. It has heavy components and moving parts. It rides an airstream jet. It has many passengers inside. The passengers are yelling and screaming and shouting. They hate one another. They rile or riot against each other. The passengers push each other away. The back of the can, the back end, has a jet stream, which looks like it has many dark, round or circular bits at the back. The can element is being dragged by cables, which I have drawn as these rubber-like gray straps, one on either side. Touching the can, it feels hot and stingy on the outside, and it emits a sound like a music. The outer surface of the can is oily. there are glass components that are sheer, transparent, translucid. The opposite end from the jet stream back end, so the front end, it has a blunt end. And I think we saw earlier that the can is simply the same structure as the hollow resonance chamber, so finding the blunt end on the front end matches well with the structure that we drew that was the resonance chamber, so it all fits together very nicely. The pink element, which was seen to end up being inside of the can, it is a soft hue that can almost not even be remembered. It is a magnetic component, a mess out of cables, a soft hue of resonance magnetism. It cannot be picked up or be left alone. It is very soft. It remembers also nothing. It is a magnetic resonance. It looks that way. When we pick it up, it goes away. It is a hue. It is soft and pink in color. It goes upward with the orange element. It lays flat with the element. And it was seen with a flat disc element, which has the bulge on the top. It cannot be ripped apart. It also sings songs of music chimes. It feels like nothing. It is only a magnetism. So the flattened disc has been put through a series of probes. It is hollow inside. It contains mechanics. It resonates with itself, and by resonating with itself, it is able to move quicker. It has a grappling mechanism underneath it, which I have drawn here as the two long arms under it, as well as the two gray shorter arms under it, which are hanging down from it. It has the pink magnetism inside it, which I have drawn as a pink hue. Hanging cables. It rises up with the air, and it rides the air current. It goes to the water to drink the water. It feeds the water into the cup, which is the hollow resonance chamber cup element. The orange element is inside of the flattened disc, and the orange element, which I have drawn here as an orange hue, feeds monitoring processes. Brown cables inside and wires mesh. There are many chairs lined up inside. There are captives inside, but the captives have not been injured. They're simply trapped inside. There is a liquid, seen as a blue water, inside of the flattened disc. The captived passengers want to hurt each other. They grab at each other with their hands, and they hate each other. They have riled up. We have windows of transparent glass. There are radio telecom devices, telecommunications, and radio receptors. The people inside the flattened disc are kicking at each other, demanding to drink water. They are feeling very unpleasant here. The can element, which is our resonance chamber from earlier, this can element is fitted directly above the flattened disc. The can sits there on top of the disc in like a loading station. The can receives water to drink from the flattened disc. It looks like the can is simply docked, fitted on top of the disc, so that the can then receives water from the disc. The flattened disc is glossy, shiny, and sleek. It has a very reflective surface on the exterior top on the sides of the disc, which even looks like mirror glass. The disc rides on heat air currents. It rides on pockets of air. It has gas chamber outside. This is the box that we have seen before, which I have drawn here as the brown box underneath the disc. The box turns out to be referred to now as a gas chamber. It is not directly under the center of the disc. it is on the side or back underneath the disc, but not directly under the center. There is some kind of a liquid, milky liquid, which is poisonous, which we find on the exterior surface on the top of the disc, but this milky liquid then quickly evaporates out. Underneath the disc, there is a staircase to get outside, which I have drawn here as the staircase. The staircase either drops down, unless it is always down. It is at the back, underneath the disc. I just put the passengers through a series of probes. The passengers are also referred to as hostages, and they say to me, "We don't want to be here, we want to get out. I hate it here." Sweat drips from the forehead of a passenger. These are foreigners, they are not captived anymore. They can move around freely, but only within confined bounds. They have shoes on their feet that cause friction, like static electricity forms when they move with these shoes or slippers against the floor. They do not hate me. They travel on the road paths, the same road as we saw earlier. They are picking up boxes and items and are sliding those around. They yell at each other, and another one growls at another. They hiss and spit. They appear to be very angry. They have cables connected to their head. They are warming each other by rubbing themselves. The rubbing causes a friction which generates heat. This is how they warm their bodies, and also they jump up and down to release more heat. They are fumigating here. They start to fume. A mist or fume develops and rises up from the passengers due to the rubbing and friction. And then I see one of them sitting on the brown belt that we drew earlier to be underneath the flattened disc. A passenger sits on that belt, and it is used as a slingshot to catapult the passenger away, or at least that's what it looked like. At least it was one of these passengers interacting closely with those belts. They cannot remember anything. They do not have minds. They cannot walk away. They are captived here. Their minds do not remember anymore. They form friction on their outer suits. They wear white bodysuits, and friction forms on the exterior of the suits, forming like a static electricity. They are trapped here, as nobody can get out. They form heat in their bodies, and the heat gets trapped inside their suits. They drink water here, and they drink from out of the can element. The can contains their drinking liquid. "Thank you for coming here to rescue us. We have been waiting for a long time. So I wanted to thank you. We are feeling unwell here. Can you help us get out?" A passenger calmly speaks to me. They sleep here inside of the resonance chamber. The passengers put a stick into their mouth, one stick for each passenger, which is a flat blue rod. The stick in their mouth keeps them steady and stable. The passengers emit gases. They start quarreling. They have no brains inside of their head. Sticky and wet on the outer surface of a passenger. They are fighting here. They want to get out. They are misfits. There is no blood inside of their bodies. These are not real beings, but they feel captived here, and they yell at each other. They count with buttons on their gear, and I saw several yellow buttons on the exterior front of the suit. They sleep here inside the resonance chamber. They want to get out. They feel captived here. They want to drink fluids. And when I touch one of these passengers on the head, they feel icy cold, like icicles. The passengers ride on a wagon with wheels, and they ride on the wagon and go into the yellow light, which is an element we've had before, which earlier, inside the yellow light, we simply had the flattened disc and resonance chamber, the structure. The passengers have an umbilical cord which connects to their gear. So there is this cable which is limp, not straight, and it is a long cable, and it connects to the belly on the front of their suit. The umbilical tube feeds them with information. These beings are wheeled on a cart. I saw one of these beings lying on its back on a wheeled cart, and the cart was moving in the direction that the being's head was facing. The being has no blood. It feels cold to touch it. When I touch it on the sides of its head, if it has a head, or where the head would be, it feels cold. And there is a liquid on the exterior where the face of the being would be. And then I asked RV a series of questions. What are the passengers? RV says they are friction makers. Why do they make friction? They communicate that way. Are the passengers friction makers, biological beings? No, they are not that, even though they drink liquid. Are they alien life forms? No, they belong in the tree stem, said RV, and I added that the tree stem is the resonance chamber element. The tree stem was its original initial stage name. What is the tree stem, which is the same as the resonance chamber element? RV says, I do not know. I cannot describe it. I only know what it does, and it flies. It goes toward resonances, and then it stays there, and it resonates with it. It travels on resonance chimes. It is a trap for liquid. It breaks up liquid and forms it into gas. Who are the passengers, or what are they? They are not humans. They travel there, inside it. They chirp. They are sitting there. Why are the friction makers referred to as passengers or hostages, which implies people? They make the pink magnetism flow. That is what they do there. They keep the operations mechanisms going. They sit down on chairs and they drink the liquid. I also want to add that it travels on resonance chimes. Chimes means a sound. Uh, um, looking closer at this passenger hostage, which can also be referred to as the friction makers. Where the face would be is just these white fuzzy hairs like a fur, and the hairs are facing upward, and the pink magnetism is in or over the body of this friction maker. Earlier I just drew generically a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, just thinking still that it's some kind of a generic being, but looking at what would be the legs, instead there are these at least 2 bits that just curl upward in this shape. And it has this pink magnetism in front of or in the body. And then I saw the flattened disc again, which I drew here again, and there are many of these friction makers inside of the flattened disc. Here you can see them on the drawing, but that's just to show where they are. But they are stored in there, and there are many, and they're small compared to the size of the flattened disc. The friction makers that are inside of the flattened disc, as drawn here, they generate a heat. The friction makers generate a heat, and the heat goes underneath the flattened disc and causes the flattened disc to be able to rise upward. So I've done a series of TS probes on the target number, and I drew the individual impressions that I've had. So the first one is this drawing here, this silver. This is a cross section so that you can see that there is a sphere or spherical cavity inside. So it's as if you cut across to see inside. The flat disc has the dome on the top, but also an equal dome on the bottom, making it now look like a reflective gray metal flying saucer. Inside the region of the two domes forms a spherical space, and within that spherical space inside is a sphere. And Arvi says that no one, or not many, know about the sphere that is inside. And Arvi says that the reason why there are those two domes on top and bottom is in order to house the sphere that is inside of those domes, inside that spherical space. So that is why it has that shape of the two lobes. And inside the disc there is oil. And then we have this picture labeled seats. There are seats which are situated inside of a long narrow gap and are part of a pale gray or almost white structure. It looks like several soft, almost white in color, padding that is fitted along this groove. The top of the groove is open, and one would squeeze into this groove to have a seat on the soft cushions that are within this groove. It really is narrow. This one groove contains many lined up, padded cushions, and this one groove contains many seats. One would sit facing forward and not facing into a wall of the groove. And then I did not draw it, but I wrote from another individual TS probe. There are gangs here who pick fights. There is a gang of troublemakers, and they look like the friction makers. And then we have another that I didn't draw, but I did draw this one in the meantime, so we can look at this one. A steering mechanism is oily. It turns around on an oily grease. The oil appears to be dark brown. It looked like the craft that I draw, which has the dome on top and the raised part on one side. But here the craft was rotating around and around its vertical axis, as if a part of it was turning while on a bed of the oil to enable the turning. Shrapnel, which are several pieces of bent metal, somewhat soft and can be shriveled together, but not so much as aluminum would, but more than just bent. They have disfigured shapes. And I did not draw, but somewhere inside the structure there is a screwdriver coil shape is locked inside it. Then I drew this one and I wrote, this thing is huge, like the size of a football field, and there is hot air underneath it. Then I drew this one. At the back of it there is a large ring, and within this ring there are several smaller rings that are black or dark, and from this comes heat or fire.